All right, Nick, let's talk about the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers, big offseason. I think there's a lot of moving and shaking going on wrong with this team. I think they're primed. I think Coach Harbaugh coming in to his second season's got this team really worked up, looking really strong. But there's one guy that they drafted that I think has gone under the radar. Haven't really heard a whole lot about to him. And all of a sudden, we hear a story that comes out. And when you hear the title of this thing, kind of perks your ears up. You're saying, I don't understand how that could be possibly true. This is going to be really interesting for Chargers fans. I thought it was as well. We'll dive into all that in just a second here. But first, I'm Andrew. That's Nick. And this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, as I alluded to, a story popped up recently about one Chargers player in particular that when I read the title and I hear what's going on with this team, kind of perked my ears up, made me think, is that true? I haven't heard a whole bunch about this player throughout the offseason. I've kind of heard about other stuff going on, but, I haven't heard anything crazy going on. So I did a little research, and it's Trey Harris out of Ole Miss for the Chargers, second round wide receiver. And they're saying better, more exciting player than Travis Hunter, the second overall pick in the draft. I think that's really interesting, but is it true? Well, first, let's get into the article and then we'll dive into the data that supports it on the other side. So, this first part is from over on The Athletic, and this was earlier last month. It says Daniel Popper on Harris earlier last month. Trey Harris showed up a lot at a couple different points in practice. In the first period, he ran smooth out routes on the right side, created separation, hauled in completion from Justin Herbert, Popper wrote. Harris has some ability in contested catch situations. We'll have to wait until training camp to see that come fully to life. So there was some people saying things about Harris, a little of good praise for him that he's shown up. He had a little bit of a connection with Herbert as well that they talked about, but nothing big, nothing really insane. But then all of a sudden, this next article comes out, and this is from SI.com. It says in round two, they decided to go for a receiver, taking Trey Harris from Ole Miss at number 55 overall. Harris gives a big target on the outside at 6'2", 205 pounds. If he can develop into a trusted weapon for Justin Herbert, again, like I said earlier, all accounts are saying that he has started to gain a rapport with Herbert. He could prove to be a perfect complement across from Lad McConkey. Bleacher Report's Brent Sobleski thinks he can be one of the most exciting rookies in the league. In fact, he sees enough potential in Harris to name him among his 6 players who could be more exciting than 2024 Heisman winner Travis Hunter in year one. Sobleski praises his ability to pull off big plays while saying his talent and the Chargers' need is a perfect match. So I thought this was very interesting. It made me dig into Harris and see how does he stack up as far as the things that Sobleski brings up. Big playability. Is he a fit for the Chargers as far as what they need in a player? And I think he absolutely is. And that brings us to our first chart. This is just overall grades showing Travis Hunter versus Trey Harris. And when you look, this is crazy part because Travis Hunter, again, number 2 overall pick in the first round. Look at their overall offensive grades. Travis Hunter in the red, Trey Harris in the blue. 86.3 overall grade for Travis Hunter, 89.7 overall grade for Trey Harris. Again, I think, it's not a huge gap. It is by a couple of points, but again, we're talking about a mid-second round guy versus the second overall pick. Trey Harris looking pretty good. You look at the receiving grade, something Travis Hunter was lauded for, 89 for Hunter, 89.4, so virtually identical. Even Harris has a little bit of an edge on Hunter here as well. Let's get into the advanced analytics, though, because it's easy just to kind of like paint people with a wide swath. And let's go into the advanced analytics and see explosiveness, big playability. What are these guys doing when they get the ball in their hands? And you look here, and this is where Harris kind of really separates himself from Hunter. Look at yards per reception. When they get the ball in their hands on average, how explosive, how big are the plays that they're getting? You look at Travis Hunter, 13.1 yards per reception last year. You look at Trey Harris, 17.2. Every time Trey Harris touches the ball, he gets an additional 5 yards more than Travis Hunter would. That is pretty incredible if you ask me. If you look at the next one, I think this is even more impressive. Yards per route run for Hunter, 2.5 yards per route run. So every time they run a route, not even just catch the ball, run a route, how many yards are they averaging over the course of that? And it's 2.5 for Hunter, 5.12 yards per route run for Trey Harris. Pretty incredible stuff there. And then finally, average depth of target. How often are they getting targeted downfield, and at what depth is that? Travis Hunter, 10.6 yards. Trey Harris, 12 yards. So again, a little bit more explosive, getting a little bit further downfield. I think this shows Trey Harris is fitting that mold. He is that guy that can be explosive and could potentially be more exciting, especially at the receiver position, than Travis Hunter. I'll acknowledge Travis Hunter, two-way player, could add more in the defensive game as well. You never know what's going to happen there. But as a pure receiver, Trey Harris, definitely more exciting. And the key things I wanted to point out as well from the other top article talking about contested catch rate. Trey Harris, really good there as well, 61.5 contested catch rate over on the higher percentile of that. Then something else interesting, his grade versus man coverage last year was absolutely phenomenal. That's going to be, the tougher coverage, man on man, best on best in the NFL. Trey Harris, 95 overall grade versus man coverage last year. That is as far in the, top percentile as he could have been. So Trey Harris looking to me like a massive steal here for the Chargers, a guy that matches up with the number 2 overall pick, and they got him at pick number 55 in the second round. I think this was an absolute steal for the Chargers here, and I think Trey Harris could be something special. Curious what your thoughts are on this one, Nick. But before we get to you, Chargers fans, in the comment section below, we're talking about guys that were underrated here. We're talking about guys that flew under the radar. So let us know, Chargers fans, who's the most underrated wide receiver in Chargers history? It's been a lot of good ones, but who do you think is one that maybe just didn't get quite enough credit? Put it in the comment section below. And while you're down there, make sure to check out our weekly newsletter from the Substack platform in the description below the video. Sign up for that. We've got some great extra content. We highlight the best comments of the week. So you find a really great underrated wide receiver, give us some good information on it. Maybe you see yourself in the newsletter. So check that out in the description below the video as well. But nonetheless, Nick, what are your thoughts on this latest news out of LA?
So one of the bigger problems with the Chargers, and it stems back a number of years, is how to best utilize the trans. I'm trying to think of the right word to describe it, but just the incredible talents of Justin Herbert, like the transcendent talents of Justin Herbert, in terms of a guy with all the physical tools, with his arm talent, mobility. Just he literally has that sort of Dan Marino, that of course we talk about Patrick Mahomes, Matthew Stafford, whatever you want to call it, that championship Super Bowl caliber arm talent and physical gifts. We all understand that. We all get it. Right. And we look at what Herbert over the course of his career, a real challenge with the Chargers offense. It was with Kellen Moore the year prior, and it even had a little bit to show up last year, is that they don't utilize just his pure gifts as much as they should. And it's not all his fault, right? Obviously, the Chargers, what they're trying to do with Roman and Harbaugh, much more running the football, much more physical power, similar to how Harbaugh was doing things up in San Francisco. So that is sort of their orientation, but they want to be more aggressive. They want to get more shots down the field. And if you look at Justin Herbert's average at the target, it took a big leap in 2024, which is what we all wanted to see. The reality is it isn't where it needs to be. I'm going to give you a few names of guys who last year had a higher average at the target than Justin Herbert, right? Jordan Love in a Packers receiving core that has basically a bunch of second round picks. Sam Darnold, right? Lamar Jackson, who's a really good player. He's got slot wide receivers and tight ends in Baltimore, right? They don't have elite wide receivers, right? Trevor Lawrence with the Jacksonville Jaguars had a deeper average depth of target than Justin Herbert. And I'm not hating on those guys. Some of those guys, especially Jackson Lawrence, in my opinion, are really good football players. The reality is Herbert, with his skill set, should be utilized at the top of the NFL every single season. The problem is they haven't had enough of those receivers to step up, right? Quentin Johnson was supposed to be that guy. Bit of a bounce back year last year, I think 700 plus yards receiving, 8 touchdowns. Still not everything you need from a big play receiver. Ladd McConkey's great, right? He's going to do a great job. He's going to be a very important piece for many years to come, but they need more elements. They need more playmakers, right? I think we talked about this all the time. when it comes to the Ben Johnson Detroit Lions success. You have to have an overabundance of playmakers, especially when you have an elite talent. You look at the Kansas City Chiefs, obviously hated AFC West rival. You talk to Chiefs fans and look at what the Chiefs have been really struggling at. Now they've been winning a lot of football, but one thing they've been really struggling at is how do they recreate the magic they had when they had Tyreek Hill in Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes has been a lot harder for them over the past few years. They've been doing everything they can to try and figure out how they can get that magic back. They haven't quite gotten it yet. The Los Angeles Chargers, they've got their guy. They've got that elite, transcendent talent in Justin Herbert. The reality is they haven't been able to surround him with those big play-making ability kind of receivers. And Trey Harris, on paper, is that guy. At Ole Miss, was that guy. His physical tools are there. The real question, of course, is can he fit into this offense? Can he integrate? Because Quentin Johnson was that guy at TCU. He had those physical tools at TCU. I like Trey Harris's chances a little bit more than Johnson's just because the competition he faced being in the SEC, obviously a brutal division, a brutal conference of college football, excuse me. I think Johnson playing in that Big 12 kind of conference, I think it's a little more grass basketball-y, right? You get a lot of 60 to 50 games in that kind of environment, Big 12, Mountain West, those kind of games. Whereas in the SEC, you're going up against a lot of first-round defensive backs, a lot of first-round defensive linemen, a lot of first-round linebackers every single week, every single game you play. I mean, you run a gauntlet, right? You got Alabama, LSU, then you got to go to Texas, then you go to Florida, right? There's a lot of NFL talent. I look at a guy like Harris as a guy who's used to that environment. He can quickly integrate into the offense. And again, because of a guy like Lad McConkey and because of the running game of the Los Angeles Chargers, he won't have to do it all, right? He's not going to have to beat double teams. He's not going to even have to go up against number one corners all the time. I think he can go against number two corners, a lot of one-on-one opportunities, and create big plays for Justin Herbert and allow Justin Herbert's just incredible skill set. Like, it's one of those things I get a little frustrated about it in the media because Herbert's skill set is so good. His arm talent, his physical gifts are off the charts. We've almost gotten used to it, right? I remember in 2021, 2022, when he first started just showcasing it at a high level, I was like, guys, this is in a lot of ways better than Patrick Mahomes. This is just like Mahomes had like the left-handed throws, all that cool Sports Center highlighty kind of stuff. Herbert's arm talent was just otherworldly good, right? Whether it was, reminded you of Elway or Marino or whoever, it was at that level. In some cases, even better. But we kind of got used to it. And I think that's a real shame because I think there is something very special with this kid behind center in Los Angeles. He just needs to be unleashed. He needs the right personnel around him to do that. And I think Trey Harris can play a big role. And by the way, if you look at what a lot of teams tried to do to counteract the Los Angeles Chargers running game last season, Harris is going to get those opportunities. For example, there is no running back in the NFL in 2024 that faced more 8-man boxes than Gus Edwards for the Los Angeles Chargers. Love you to death, Gus Edwards, but you're not the guy I would expect to face a lot of 8-man boxes. I would be thinking the guy who leads the NFL would have to be Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley or Christian McCaffrey or one of those guys, a great runner. Edwards, good football player, but the reality is teams looked at Los Angeles and said they want to run the football, and we don't fear all their wide receivers. Teams are going to have to fear Trey Harris because he's going to be a big play receiver for them right out the gate. So what's going to happen? We're going to see some 2 deep safeties come about, which means the running game is going to open up a little bit more. Then teams are going to have to shift back to 8-man boxes, hit them over the top with guys like Harris and, of course, Lad McConkey. The tale of as old as time. It's how football works. The Chargers have every piece in place to make it happen. They've just been waiting for that star number 2 receiver. Everyone hoped it was Johnson. I think the ship has sailed. I think he can be a solid player in the offense overall. I think he becomes something in the National Football League, but he's not the star number 2. Based on what we're seeing, based on what we're hearing, and based on the data you pulled up there, I think there's a great chance Trey Harris can be that number 2 guy. And if he is, especially in this Chargers offense, we're looking at the steal of the draft by the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah, and again, there's a couple things. I think one thing in particular you pointed out that really jumps off the page to me, and you look at Quentin Johnston and you bring it up. The competition you play at TCU is not bad, but it's not SEC level competition. And then we see him come to the NFL and he doesn't translate. He's not able to get through it. And they're working with him. And I think you can see last year, I think we did some stories covering Johnston where Harbaugh actually poured into Johnston a little bit. He believed in him, really did it. But Johnston, for a first round pick, he really didn't, show anything special. Nothing crazy going on for him. No shade to him. I know you like you said, he could become something in this league, but for where he was drafted and what he's done so far, it is not looking good for Johnson. Trey Harris, on the other hand, is something he's did that was really impressive. His first 3 years over at Louisiana Tech, he did good. Average mid high 70 grades overall in the receiving department, offensive overall grade. Then he transfers, goes to Old Miss, and what does he do? Immediately takes an 11-point jump the first year there. He goes from 77.8 overall grade to an 88.5 overall grade. He goes against better competition, and immediately with a good quarterback, Jackson Dart there, does fantastic, just explodes onto the scene. What does he do the year after that? Gets a little bit better. 88.5 is really high. To make another jump from that's actually kind of difficult, but he does again go up to 89.7 overall. So he's just getting better when he faces better competition. I think this is a similar situation. He's going from Ole Miss with Jackson Dart to the NFL with Justin Herbert. Better competition, but better quarterback play. I think they're going to be able to utilize his talents really well, and I expect to see a big jump again from Trey Harris. I think he's going to be something special here. I think a lot of other teams in the NFL missed out on this guy. I think we're going to see an exciting player for the Chargers here down the stretch.